Welcome to the SACNA Student Programs webinar series. Today's webinar is on post-bac opportunities for recently graduated students. My name is Katerina Oviedo, and I'm the SACNA Student Programs Manager. I'm coming to you from the original homelands of the Pumayao tribe in San Diego, California. We'll also have Emily Public, SACNA's team member, who is our chat moderator for today. SACNA is a fully inclusive organization dedicated to achieving true diversity in STEM. As the nation's largest multicultural and multidisciplinary STEM diversity organization, SACNA creates space where all members, volunteers, and partners feel they belong and can embrace their intersectional identities. SACNA is based out of California, which is the original homelands to over 200 tribal nations, bands, and rancherias of Native American indigenous people. We would like to take this time to acknowledge the original inhabitants of the various regions which we all live, work, and honor the rich culture of the indigenous people across the country. It is our pleasure to coordinate and host this informative and educational webinars. For today's presentation, our panelists will be discussing what a post-bac program is, why you should consider applying for one, what programs out there, and much more. We will also be accepting live questions, so please submit them via the Q&A feature, and then the panelists will answer as many as they can. So now it's my pleasure to introduce today's panelists. We have Juliana Ortega. She's the STEM Diversity Program Director at UC Santa Cruz. We have Sebastian Somolinas. He's doing his research in the Marta Bullock's lab at Harvard University. We also have Elisa Rojas Palato. She's attending the Harvard Neuroscience Post-bac program. We have Dr. Arnaldo Diaz-Vasquez. He is an Assistant Dean for Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Affairs in the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences at UT Southwestern Medical Center and an Assistant Professor, Department of Pharmacology, UT Southwestern Medical Center. And we also have joining us today Dr. Elena Fernandez-Ramon. She's the director of the pre-medical program at the Office of Intramural Training and Education at NIH and is the co-director of the NIH Academy on Health Disparities program. So let me stop sharing my screen. Thank you to all of our speakers for making the time to be with us today and to discuss this next step in the student's academic career. I would like to start this conversation with, why should students consider attending the post-bac programs versus applying for graduate school? What are the benefits of doing post-bac?
I can start by saying that I think, first of all, graduate school is a very big commitment, and it is okay to take your time to think about it. I mean, it's a 5 to 7 year adventure, and you probably want to make sure that it is something that you want to do. And on the other hand, I do feel like not all of us come from a background in which science is this not mysterious field. And so I think it is okay to take some time to, get accustomed to the idea of what is a career in science, what it really means to be a scientist. And especially if you didn't have many opportunities for full-time research during undergrad, I think you can really supplement that by giving you some extra time to experience it. That's my answer.
I agree with Sebastian. I think that depending on the focus of the program, all students mature in many aspects, right? Some of them may need more exploration in the research field. Some of them may need this extra clinical exposure if they want to go to a biomedical field, MDs or MD PhDs. Some of them need to improve their academic credentials because for whatever reasons, things happen. This is a life, normal life sometimes doesn't allow people to perform with the full potential, and they need to take more courses and demonstrate that they are able to perform well. Some are career changers, so depending on the program focus, They just need to mature, explore, and enrich their experience to be better candidates for the next step in their career. That's the way I see why they need to do that.
And just to add, I mean, first, I mean, thank you for the space and the opportunity. I do agree with Sebastian and Dr. Hernandez Ramon. It's like, you know, this is a long career. I mean, there is no, I mean, reasons to try to do things on just one way, right? A postbac will provide, I mean, opportunities for you to, you know, I mean, for several reasons, to get additional research experience, to realize that this is what you want. I mean, sometimes we don't know if this is what we really want, and a postbac will provide you with that, I mean, opportunity to, I mean, boost your confidence. I mean, grad school, you go to grad school whenever you are ready to go to grad school. And sometimes, I mean, it will take, I mean, going back to what Sebastian says, I mean, I'm a first generation student. And so I didn't see a lab until I was 21. So back then, I mean, I wasn't aware of postbacs, but if I go back, that 1 year or 2 years postbac had tremendous, I mean, opportunities. And it helps a lot in boosting your confidence, getting the skills. I mean, finding out this is what you really want. And because it's not just getting into grad school, it's getting into grad schools and doing well. I mean, sometimes, I mean, we had to work as undergrads. We don't have enough time to work in the research lab. A postbac will provide you also with that financial stability and to fully dedicate and immerse yourself in science. And I think that's something that first generation low-income students and many of students from underserved communities that had to work and go to school. I mean, you don't have enough time to really gain the experience, but also to really gain the confidence and to really know that this is what you really want. So I think the postbac is great at providing you with that space.
I'd just like to add to that. One of the things that I enjoy working with prep scholars and the NIH prep program is that the way that the program is structured is in a way so that the students are coming and getting hired by the institutions. So many times they come with health benefits, they're making income. And so I think one of the things to highlight there is that it really bridges that gap, and a student that might be thinking, I'm going to take time off, I'm going to go to work. This is that experience and that opportunity to really, you know, stay involved in science, create some retention points there. But also it is really that midpoint between being in no longer an undergrad, but not quite a graduate student. So it gives you that sort of bridge moment to take a breath. The program is structured in a way that, for example, we hire our junior specialists at 75%, which means that the faculty know that the students are committed 75% of the time. The other 25% of the time, the rest of the time, you're really devoted to professional development, attending seminars, and really cultivating those other very important aspects to your scientific development, personal development, right? So a lot of the efforts that we do here at the office with the STEM diversity programs and the prep scholars is promoting that, you know, that personal development, the professional development, really working with the scholars to get them ready, you know, like Arnold just mentioned, to be successful in a graduate program. And so I think that that is a really good and important reason why to consider, you know, as opposed to going to the workforce, building in some more support that the institutions have that you might not be able to do if you directly go into the workforce, for example, right?
And just to share a bit more, yes. So yes, everything that has been said, I totally agree with. As a current post-bac student right now in my first year, I really am grateful that I took this time to breathe, as Juliana said, you know, coming straight out of undergrad, you know, during undergrad, you're focused on your academics, you're focused on your, like the little time you have in research lab, and you don't really get a full, like a full view of what it really means to be in a research lab and develop a project from start to finish. And, you know, going into grad school, like as a first gen, like everything can be very like overwhelming. And there's terminology that you don't understand, such as like, what is NIH, you know, National Institutes of Health, what is NSF, National Science Foundation. And, you know, like there's these little things that, I feel like as people from like coming from underrepresented backgrounds, we're not really taught in being the first ones to go into science as well. Like we don't really so if I feel like I really needed this time to like prepare myself to go into grad school, to prepare the best I can, knowing what fellowships are, which are like money you get, sort of like a scholarship to fund your work and research. And, I think that my program has been very helpful in like addressing like these and giving me sort of a bird's eye view, so I'm not going into grad school without a clue, so I'm going prepared and much more ready. And I really encourage you all to think about doing a post-bac program. And I think what's the benefit as well from post-bac program, as opposed to just being a research assistant, which you can do. You can just be a research assistant for a lab, before applying to grad school. But the thing about post-bac program is that it's like a cohort, a community, a program that is here to support you, that has resources, that has seminars, that will help you develop professionally. And I think that's what drove me to the post-bac program as opposed to being a research assistant, because I really need that community. And I think that is something that that I really appreciate from a post-bac program.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to all our speakers today. And you mentioned something about the financial aspect. I would like to come back to that later in our discussion. So my next question is, how to choose a post-bac program? What are the best programs?
I would say apply to as many because they're free, right? You're not paying a graduate school application fee. And mostly, our application really consists of two letters of recommendation and short essay questions that are really just to get to know the scholars and just sort of their potential career aspirations, goals. So it's a really straightforward application, just collecting some background information, short essay questions, and letters of recommendation. So I think, the site for all the NIH website where all the sites and prep programs has just been put in the chat, but it's really important to this would be your chance of sort of, if you're thinking about wanting to live, like I have a lot of students that, for example, come from Southern California and they don't really want to leave California, right? But this is their chance to really go and explore another part of the country. And it's not a big time commitment, right? You're saying I'm going to commit to doing this for a year or two. That's a short commitment. And it's not the same as saying I'm committing to this PhD program over in Wisconsin for the next 5-6 years. So I think I'd say keep an open mind and apply to as many as you want, and just sort of thinking on location. There's only 2 in California, Davis and UC Santa Cruz, right? But they are all over the nation. And because they're free, we always recommend our students to just apply to as many as possible.
Yeah, I agree with Juliana. And I would also say that there are programs with a specific focus. So, I mean, I work at the NIH and I love NIH, but I know there are other programs out there. Here people do research full-time. Most of them do basic research, and some of them have the chance to work at the clinical center, so they do clinical research. They also have, and I forgot to add that to the previous question, the guidelines for applying to the program they want in the future. Most of our students apply almost half to grad school and the other half to MD or MD PhD programs. So we have like a strong team supporting them, and probably will understand the importance of sharing information with first generation students, people who have ever heard about AMCAS or MSAR or other things that may be the most common thing for other communities, but some of our students really haven't had any support. So the NIH supports that, and I know many programs do that too. So for the NIH, the research part is very, very important. But I also sometimes advise my students to go for a course-based post-bac program when they need to really improve their credentials. And there are specific post-bac programs for those purposes. And there are post-bac programs for career changers and other focuses, right? So I think it's important to really make sure that you see what is going to be more helpful for your next step in your career, and apply to not just one, right, to several programs.
Yes, just quickly apply as many as you can. I mean, postbacks are competitive programs. I'm a big fan of the NIH Prep. I was the program director for one of the NIH Prep for several years. They're amazing programs. I know several students doing the EarTrack program at the NIH, amazing program. And we just launched a new post-bac program that started here at UT Southwestern. And this summer, I just put the links, but post-bacs are amazing. And the program directors, I mean, Sheila Thomas at Harvard, many others. I mean, this is an amazing opportunity. And going back to what Elisa said, it's like the sense of cohort that you might not find, or it might be harder to get as a research technician, but the sense of cohort that the post-bac programs provide is amazing. I mean, I have friends running also, I mean, working with Elena at the NIH. I mean, the professional development opportunities that you get as part of the post-bac is amazing. I mean, to be successful in a PhD program is not just about knowing how to do research in the lab. It's like the networking, the writing, the public speaking, I mean, dealing with handling difficult conversation, managing up, wellness. So there's so many more than just pipetting in the lab. It's a whole, and I think the post-bac, I mean, touch on all those topics, and I think that's why they're great programs.
Yeah, it hasn't been mentioned, but there's also support to send scholars to conferences like SOCNAS and ABRCAMS, right? This is support that you would not get otherwise if you go into a job site, right? But this embedded support is really aimed to develop you as a scientist in many ways, right? Science communication, personal, and self-advocacy. And so, yeah, just consider those opportunities, right? Because it's already embedded as part of the support. So every year we send our students to present at SOCNAS or ABRCAMS to really just benefit. I mean, for the past 2 years, it's been virtual, but we're hoping that next year we do get to be in person and experience, you know, the exhibit hall for these conferences. And so that's a very unique opportunity. There is very limited funding for travel outside of a structured program that the NIH really offers. So something to consider too.
This year, fingers crossed. Thank you.
If I can add something, Katarina,
Yes.
that I forgot to mention. So speaking about the cohort, I know the NIH accepts more than 1,000 postbacs, right? So that cohort is just so big that doesn't have that feeling of cohort. But we have the PEP program that Natasha, that you know very well, Arnaldo, manages. That's a great program for minorities, right? So people who haven't had the chance to, you know, do research in a more extensive way or didn't have the resources or things like that, that is the program. And that is smaller, that's like 20, 25 people. And there is a special curriculum for that people. So that is different from the huge other cohort. Both are great, but I know so many people have told me, oh my God, NIH, no, I don't want to go there. I don't belong. That's like scary. And just let me tell you, the NIH, for the most part, is very welcoming. And the PEP program that Natasha manages is just great. It's like a little family, very super supportive with a lot of resources. So I put the link there, is the second one, PEP, and it's very similar to PEP. This is NIH PEP, PEP, and the link is in there.
And Natasha is amazing. We went to school together, and she's amazing. So
yeah, she couldn't be here because she just had a baby. But yes, you're gonna love her.
Thank you all. And you actually answered my next question. So what I hear is post-bac programs are very competitive and students should apply to as many as possible and they are free of charge. So I just wanted to reiterate that. Can a student with a low GPA get into a program?
I mean, in my experience, yes. Yes, it's just what I will always recommend the students is like before you even start applying, read about the program. I mean, follow the guidelines, follow the rules, check out the deadlines, ask for those letters, work on your statements. The more you can make your application targeted to the school that you're applying, the better. I mean, you know, read the website, check out faculty. When you craft your statements, make sure that you're talking to the school you're applying. And I think that will increase your chances and they're competitive, but also the NIH prep programs are also designed for students that needs the program. So I mean, it's not for the top GPAs with tons of research. It's for students that will benefit from the program. So make sure that on your statement you also address why you're pursuing a postbac, and be authentic. I mean, be yourself, but I mean, make sure that you're targeting your statements to the school that you're applying.
Yes, in my particular case, I went into my postbac program with a fairly average GPA. You could say you graduated with a 3.2 GPA. And in fact, it is something that I was concerned about, but over time I've realized it really is not important for grad school. And there are several reasons for that. Your GPA won't define the success of your scientific career. And also, often people who are underrepresented in the sciences face challenges that most people don't face. And that is something that is reflected in the GPA. I mean, in my particular case, I had to work several jobs while my friends were, taking summer classes to ease their course load during the year, stuff like that, that you can definitely talk about in your applications. And I think it showcases other sorts of skills and resilience that your GPA just won't show. GPA is a number, but your story and your ability to talk about, what sorts of challenges you faced and your reasons for wanting to pursue science, even though it hasn't been an easy path. I think a low GPA translates into, this is not has been easy for me, right? So if you're able to talk about that, it can be one of your biggest assets, in my opinion. And so far, it has been for me.
I mean, full disclosure, I graduated with a 3.3, if I remember correctly. My GREs, thanks God that we're not asking for GREs. Probably many schools are dropping them. My GREs were really bad. I didn't speak the language, and I graduated with a PhD. So I think, I mean, I agree with Sebastian. I mean, grad school is more than just a GPA. I mean, GPAs, I mean, yes, I mean, they kind of like tell a part of your story, but not the full story. And I think it's more than, it's the research skills, it's the confidence, it's the grit. I mean, it's being persevere. I mean, it's a lot. And I think, I mean, for people that as first generation or many students from underserved community that we have gone through challenges, this I mean, we're ready, we're prepared to tackle the challenges. And GPA is just a number that doesn't measure, I mean, in my opinion, how successful you'll be in the grad program.
I agree, and also agree on the comment that Juliana put on the chat. I think you need to focus on what you need. Sometimes you need to take more courses because you need to increase your GPA, and then you need to look for those programs. At the NIH, we removed the requirement of the GPA, so you don't need a minimum GPA to be accepted.
Excellent. Thank you for all this information. Question came in the chat. What was your process like for finding postbac opportunities? So maybe Sebastian and Elisa could share.
Yeah, I can share. So actually attending conferences such as SACNAS is a great start. So they only gave me a choice to attend one or the other. So I attended ABRCAMS. I'm sorry, I know I should have attended SACNAS, but you'll get the same, or you'll get a similar experience if you attend either one. So ABRCAMS is the other conference that's annual conference for biomedical. I'm blanking. But yes, for minorities in biomedical sciences, that's what it ends. So actually at these conferences, they have like for 3 days, they have booths which you can go in between seminars, and at these booths, there are representatives from all colleges, all universities, and these representatives often head like programs, postbac programs, and they're in attendance, and you can talk to them. You can say, does your university have a postbac program? And that's when you can start to network for yourself or find opportunities. So in my case, it was a virtual conference, and it was I'm very grateful that my experience that I had the director from my current program here program in neuroscience, the Harvard postbac program, Tari, she reached out to me because she saw my poster. So she emailed me, you know, saying like, can I talk to you? And then talk to her. And then I got to learn more about that program. And just from, you know, getting to know that these programs exist, I also learned not from just her. I was lucky in that case, but I also had other programs where I learned, oh, there's prep, you know, there's prep here, there's prep at these universities. So I was starting to prepare myself the year prior to look at post-bac programs. And yeah, online, usually there's a big website. I think they put it in the chat earlier that you can see live where the prep programs are. You know, you just type up NIH prep sites and there it is, a long list. And actually there's like, I was just talking right before this webinar that there's many more schools opening up, like starting their own post-bac programs. I know Stanford is going to start theirs this upcoming year. So their application is going out like by the end of this month. It's probably up live. But yeah, there's many opportunities out there. You know, you just gotta sometimes like find your way, Google, but this is what we're here for too. Like right now you're doing the exact same, like this is amazing that you showed up to the webinar. You're already a step ahead of like many others and like many where I was. So you're in a great spot right now. And you know, you can reach out to any of us. I think we all shared our contact info there. And yeah, for me, I know it was questioned earlier what I wanted in a post-bac program. I wanted flexibility. So I wanted to know that I could, like, if I wanted to take classes, I could take classes. If I wanted to stay an extra year, I could stay an extra year. And so there's different types of programs, and finding which program is the right fit for you. You know, it can also you can also look into that. Yes, that is my experience.
Thank you, Lisa.
In my case, it was a conversation with my boss. I did a couple summer internships, and on my second one, I was fairly clear that, you know, I didn't want to go straight into grad school. I think I needed some strengthening of some areas, including some grades, which I did. I was able to take classes during my postbac. And also I wanted to learn bioinformatics because I didn't know how to code. So I said, you know, going into grad school, I want to make sure I know more about areas of research that I haven't been exposed to, because then you only get like 3 to 4 rotations, and, you know, science is very big. I wanted to give myself some time to really know what was out there. So I talked to her and she said she had never heard about postbac programs, but we could make it work somehow. So I talked to my program directors. I got some advice from people in the university who were dedicated to the diversity and inclusion side of things, and they knew a lot about postbac programs. They recommended a few. And I applied to Harvard's ultimately. That was the only one that I applied to, and I was lucky enough to get in. But I have heard, as Elisa mentions, lots of universities are coming up with them, even industry. So Novartis, for example, has a postbac program that is very interesting if you want to learn more about, you know, sort of the business side of science, or how science is done in the business side. And then, Cold Spring Harbor Laboratories is starting their own postbac program this year. And as Elisa mentioned, yeah, Stanford, I know there's plenty of them. So yeah, talk to your mentors, ask for some feedback, and hopefully they can help you out with that too.
Thank you, Sebastian. And just to add to what Elisa mentioned, how she found her postbac program at the conference. So I invite all current students to apply for SACNAS travel scholarships. The applications will open next month, March 9, and you will have the chance to attend the conference fully funded and meet various programs and apply.
Just to add to this, sorry, very quickly, I have been talking to a lot of people from different universities over the last few weeks because of interviews, and I have been talking about postbacs. Many of them have mentioned that they're flexible with the deadlines for applications. So if anybody was hoping to apply this year and they didn't get their chance yet, make sure you email the program directors directly. And in many cases, they'll work with you. And even if, you know, you're applying a little bit late, they may consider your application. So it's not too late, just so you know.
Great tips, thank you. So let's go ahead, Arnaldo.
Yeah, I just wanted to add what Sebastian just said. Like, if you apply to a PhD program for whatever reason you didn't get an offer, reach out to them if they have a postbac. Perhaps, they could transfer your application from one system to the other. And I used to do that at my previous institution. So, you reach out, ask questions. I think the only thing they can say is no, right? But just asking questions and reaching out. And something that we didn't mention before, one benefit of the postbac is the networks that you get into. I know Tari, I know Sheila Thomas, David Warren, and Jason. This is the network of students, program directors, and many of the program directors running postbacs are also working with admissions and grad schools and MD PhDs and PhDs. And that's another benefit that the postbac will provide you, is with that network. Will help you in applying, selecting the schools to apply to. Coming from Puerto Rico, I didn't know many of the schools, back then. So I think the postbac will also help you in creating awareness of the many programs out there.
Do some postbac programs have connections to graduate programs in addition to the network that you just mentioned?
I can specifically talk about UCSC. So the postbac program is under an umbrella office called the STEM Diversity Research Programs Office. And under this office, we also run a training grant, which is an IMSD, the Initiative for Maximizing Student Development Training Grant. So one of the things that I get to do in my role with that grant is actually interview potential graduate students that might be suitable for that fellowship as they're interviewing for the graduate programs here. And from that, I actually do pitch in the postbac program, because you don't know who's going to get into the program, right? So somewhat the way that the programs might be structured, it's a small network. So sometimes it's the same people running similar programs on their campus, right? And so I work both with undergrads, so students that are coming from the MARC programs, for example, the Minority Access to Research Careers. Then we have the PrEP program, and then we have an IMSC training grant. And so, and I get to meet a lot of the directors of several programs when we're going to the NIH meetings and stuff. So I think it depends on how the institution's structured. But I think that, Arnold made a very good point, which is you don't know how the institution is really structured. It could be separate offices running, but the network is small, right? And so if I identify a student that maybe I end up interviewing for IMSD fellowship, but did not get into the graduate program, I might specifically target that student and say, hey, apply to our postbac program. You'd be a great candidate, right? And so I think it'd be important to really ask these questions, look at the institutions you're applying to and interviewing for, seeing if they have those opportunities, connecting with the people, then and there. And sometimes it's the exact same people running the efforts on the campus.
Excellent, thank you. Let's talk more about the application process for these programs. What is the usual duration of the program?
For the NIH, it is supposed to be 1 to 2 years, but I have to say most of the students stay for 2 years. A few stay only for 1 year, and if they need to move on to a different experience, it's fine if they do it only 1 year, but the most common case is 2 years. Now, sometimes we have some special cases, MD PhD candidates who are just about to publish or things like that, special cases. And now we have many with COVID here. So we are now offering the extension of an extra year. Again, they need to go through a specific, process, paperwork, etc. But that is now a possibility that was not before. And was that the only question, Katrina? Yeah.
I'm dropping in the chat again, but there's an active list and description of the PrEP programs. It's an active Google sheet that, a lot of the PrEP directors were sent this information to update. And so one of the columns there is the duration of the program at the different institutions. So typically it's a 1, and it can be extended to 2-year support. So if you look at that Google sheet, you might be able to find the program at the different, state, and then see what the duration of the program is, the support is.
Thank you. What is the eligibility to apply for a program? I will pick on Sebastian.
I think it's program specific. Some of them do have a GPA requirement. Some of them do not have it. Some of them require some sort of previous background in college, in which, you're a college graduate with some sort of biological, chemical, or STEM background. and some of them are open to people who are exploring. I think it varies a lot based on the program.
So I believe if I remember correctly, I mean, you have to be within 36 months of graduating from your, undergrad. I mean, for the NIH prep, you have to be U.S. citizen or permanent resident. So I think those are, key, requirements for the NIH prep. For the one that I'm going to start now in the summer at UT Southwestern will follow kind of like the same, like within 3 years of graduating from college. U.S. residents or permanent residents. U.S. citizens or permanent residents.
The same for NIH, and if they got a master's degree, they need to be within the next 6 months of graduation to apply to the postbac program. And something I need to mention here about the selection is that the NIH doesn't have a selection committee, so they need to approach mentors and email them and explain why they want to be in their labs. And I was reading a question about if you can select your project. So that's the way at the how at the NIH works. You need to go to the database, and I can put the link there. So you can use like a search tool, because we have several thousands of PIs, principal investigators, and you need to search by your research topic. And then you can find a decent list of people you want to contact, like 5 to 10. And then that's going to be according to your research interests, right? So if you are interested in, bladder cancer or whatever, then you put that there, and then you have a selection of PIs, and then you sort of choose the field you want, but the project is going to be, more centered on the big project of the lab.
Just to add to that, I do believe there's non-US citizens in my program. I think that might be more common for private institutions. But yeah, I don't know if being a US citizen or resident is necessarily a requirement for all programs.
Great, thank you for sharing. So I hear different students should look into various programs and read eligibility specifically for those programs, and they vary. What is the general time frame? When are the deadlines for post-bac programs? When should students start working on their applications?
So deadlines, at least for most NIH press, if I remember correctly, mine is usually the end of February, beginning of March, around there. They might be programs that are probably a little later, but they're around that. That's the timeline. So I will say, like, there's still time. To put an application in. I think Juliana mentioned at the beginning, it's not a extensive application. It's probably just a statement, a couple of letters. So there's still time. And I think Sebastian mentioned before also, reach out. If you need extra time, reach out, and ask those important questions.
Yeah, Arno has really mentioned it. Our deadline is the second Friday of March. So this year is March 11th. So we used to accept applications until April 1st, but then it's sort of, we're in a crunch time to select the scholars, get them hired. So we had to move that deadline a little bit early. We typically want to keep it open, and we might be able to extend it. We want to capture the students that are not getting into PhD programs. I think, unfortunately, with our quarter system and how soon we want to get the scholars started and the paperwork involved to get them hired and on board has been the tricky subject for us on our campus. But typically, most of the deadlines range starting as early as January and some as late as April. And so I think, and every program is run differently at the different institutions. That's why it's really important to go to the different institutions, really read the fine print. There are programs that I know support DACA and undocumented students because the campus will do matching funds, right, to create a couple slots, for example. And so I think it's really important just for once you have a list of, your 6, 7, 8, 10, I would say 10 programs that you're applying to, that you make your list, a spreadsheet of just the requirements, the support that they offer, the deadlines, and you're going to see that there's a good spread of deadlines. But the intention of prep programs is to capture those students not getting into PhD programs too, that could be benefit from the support that these programs offer. So our deadline is March 11th this year, but there's a potential that we can extend it a little bit. So just contact us directly if you have questions or if you have a space, a special circumstance you want to discuss.
Right. At the NIH, there is no deadline. Students can apply all the year around. But I have to say that, and this is because many schools have different systems, they graduate at different times, and students can have special circumstances. But I need to say that most of our students are leaving because they also start at the end of the summer or beginning of the fall. So if you want to have more chances to get into an NIH postbac position, there are going to be more slots available around that time. And we recommend people to apply at least 4 to 6 months in advance because PIs start looking for the replacement very early. So this would be a very good time to put together the application and submit it. Oh, sorry, that's for the general. But for the PEP one, that is for minorities, I have the dates here. The deadline is March 4th, and you're going to be notified in March, and that starts in September. That's for the small cohort I was talking about before.
Excellent, thank you. And since deadline for many programs are coming in, could you remind our viewers on the application components, what they should be preparing?
The NIH is very simple. You need a cover letter, you need a CV, you need to enter grades, courses and grades, and you need letters of recommendation.
For my program, it was 1 statement of purpose, 3 letters of recommendation, and your unofficial or official transcript.
Yes, same for mine, 3 letters and a statement and the unofficial transcript.
Us is just general background information, and then 4 short essay questions about just, you know, your career aspirations, why science, an interesting book that you've read that has made a personal impact, right? So it's more really application just to get to know the scholar, and then unofficial transcripts, and then 2 letters of recommendation.
Thank you. And how soon can students expect to hear if they get accepted or rejected after the deadline?
For us, it's about 3 weeks after, you know, we start reviewing applications and we're able to notify students. And we do a formal interview, one with the selection committee, and then the second interview is with the potential faculty placements if selected. But I would say by mid-April, students know if they've been accepted for a potential start date of July 1st.
For the PEP program, it's usually within the next month. But for the other program, the big program, it depends on the PIs. So it's very, very variable, can be several months.
So my program is new. We start now in the summer, but based on my previous experience, I'll say like we'll do our best to start calling the students 2 weeks after the deadline.
Thank you. We have a question from Vanessa. What do you or the programs look for in a student? What should we make sure to have strong applications?
So I'll say like, I mean, know the programs, know the schools you're applying to. You don't have to be too specific. I want to study, I mean, gym, blah, 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 and blah, blah. Don't be too specific, but have a general idea of what you want. Be clear about why you want to do the post-bac. A lot of students, I mean, spend time trying to come up with a story for the personal statement. No, be your own. I mean, be authentic, and know why you're applying. And know that, I mean, make sure to go to the website, make sure to know the faculty, but don't put a lot of pressure on yourself that I have to be super specific about which lab I want to join. And just follow the rules. I always say that's key, you know, the deadlines, whoever is writing the letters, give them enough time, respect people's time, provide them with your CV, I mean, or statements before you ask for the letters. So they know, I mean, that when those letters come in, also the letter writers know you and know what you want. I mean, it takes time. I mean, but I always say now there's still time, I mean, to apply, but it takes time, I mean, to put everything in order and apply to the many programs.
I mean, I agree with everything that Arnold said, which is that, you know, you really have to do your due diligence and reading the fine print, really making sure that you're following instructions. But as far as just for example, for us, we're really trying to just get a sense of your goals and aspirations, and that you're genuinely interested in science and in pursuing and really open to exploring this field. We know that you might not end up doing the research that you come into the prep program, you know, to experience. You might be switching from fields. So we want to understand your circumstances, how you'll benefit from the program and the support. So it's definitely not just a job, right? Like a lot of what we do is also a lot of professional development. So we want to know that you want to be a part of that, right? You want to participate. You are looking for that community, so that the program is going to benefit you as a whole, not just be a paycheck, right? That you're willing to participate, put the time, the effort, and that it'll lead you to the next steps in your science career. And if you can just, you know, let us know about that, I think that makes a strong application.
I also agree on everything that everybody has said. I would just add that for the PEP program, I think there's a big emphasis on really sharing your journey, and if you have had struggles, if you haven't had the chance to do more research for whatever reason, please share that there, because that program is specifically for people who haven't had the chance or resources to do more research. So you don't need to come with a very strong research background. Actually, if you do, you don't belong to that program. You need to go to the general one. So for the PEP program, just be transparent and tell us what happened, why you haven't had those opportunities, and that is gonna make you a stronger candidate for that program.
Yeah, I just want to pinpoint, like, that is so true, like being transparent, being authentic, as Arnaldo has said, because I think that that will help you help the program directors as well know that you're the right fit, because they're gonna have those resources for you. So, you know, like I remember putting down like, oh, like I would like, you know, to have like time to like learn programming. Like I put that in, like, you know, in my statement of purpose, you know, this is why I'm applying to this post-bac program. And then, you know, like the program directors like reached out. Like when I started the program, they were like, oh, there's this boot camp like for MATLAB, you know, like, so it's very important to be authentic, and that way you're paired into the best fit for yourself as well. And, you know, I think that you do the service to yourself if you're not authentic, because then you won't get into the program that best fits what you need, right? So I think that that's true. It's very true.
Thank you all. We have time for a few more questions, so go ahead and submit them in the Q&A feature. What I would like to discuss now, let's talk about the financial aspect of post-bac programs. Is there a tuition students need to pay? Are there scholarships?
I believe in most cases, it's the opposite. You get paid to do a postbac. It's a job. I guess the one thing that is complicated coming from a less economically advantaged background is, you know, you put in the scale, do I want to get a job, get paid, you know, quite more than a postbac sometimes, or do I want to go to a postbac? And I think you gotta consider non-tangibles, such as, you know, we've talked about the many advantages of being in a postbac, but the one that you're not going to get at a job is like the freedom to pursue a project independently, which is really what most closely resembles grad school. In a job, you know, this is 9 to 5. You have to be there 9 to 5. This is the task for the week. These are the goals. This is what you're going to achieve. While as a student, you know, you may be getting paid less, but you are gaining all this extra experience of, you know, facing this mountain of a big question by yourself on your own terms. Yeah, I think it is worth the pay cut. I gotta say that it has been for me, and it's proven more successful than I thought. So yeah, short answer, no, you should not be paying for your postbac.
You know, I don't know the percentage of the postbacs that we do have to pay. When I send my students to course-based postbacs, most of them are required tuition, which is a struggle for many, right? But well, let's talk about my program. For the NIH, this is paid. You don't need a tuition and you receive a stipend. And the reason the stipend goes from 35,000 a year if you are just in your first year of your bachelor's, and that goes to 38 if you have a master. So that is the range, the current one.
So for a program that starts now in the summers, the stipend is going to be 35. Plus, I mean, we will pay for the tuition for you to take a course. We will provide funds for you to travel to a conference. We'll also pay for the health insurance and fees.
Yes, and for us, it's similar. It's 31, and so in the Google Sheet that's active, it actually has the stipend amount for the scholars at the different programs. We don't cover tuition and fees. Unfortunately, our program doesn't have courses, but we do have conference travel money and benefits. You would get hired as a junior specialist. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all this information. We learned today that post-bac programs are a great opportunity for the students. It will provide you with the research experience, but also with the professional development, networking, writing, public speaking, and so much more. If you enjoy today's discussion, you can find upcoming and previous webinars on our website at sacnas.org/webinars. And finally, immediately following this webinar, you will be sent a survey that takes less than 30 seconds to complete. As members, your feedback is critical for us. Please take a few moments to submit the survey and let us know what you thought about today's webinar. Your feedback helps us improve as well as identify topics for future programs for you. This concludes our webinar with Yuli, Sebastian, Elisa, Arnaldo, and Elena. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today, and we will see you next time.